to me. Looking forward to seeing it.
Okay,
yeah.
so we are continuing with our reading and discussion of King Lear. Today we are beginning with Act 3, Scene 7. The parts have been assigned and we are ready to roll. Action,
Here we
please.
are, the group of us in Gloucester's castle. Carry on.
Speedily to my lord your husband. Show him this letter. The army of France has landed. Seek out the traitor Gloucester.
Hang him instantly.
Pluck out his eyes.
Leave him to my displeasure. Edmund, keep you your sister's company. The revenges we are bound to take upon your traitorous father are not fit for your beholding. Advise the Duke, where you are going to a most festinate preparation, we are bound to the like. Our posts shall be swift and intelligent betwixt us. Farewell, dear sister, farewell, my lord of Gloucester.
Enter Oswald. Des, one more.
Oh, how now? Where is the king?
My lord of Gloucester hath conveyed him hence, some 35 or 36 of his knights, hot questress after him, met him at the gate, who, with some other of the lord's dependents, are gone with him toward Dover, where they boast to have well-armed friends.
Horses for your mistress.
Farewell, sweet lord and sister.
Edmund, farewell. Go seek the traitor Gloucester. Pinion him like a thief. Bring him before us. Though well we may not pass upon this life without the form of justice, yet our power shall do a courtesy to your wrath, which men may blame but not control. There, the traitor.
Ingrateful fox, 'tis he.
Bind fast his corky arms.
What means your graces? Good my friends, consider you are my guest. Do me no foul play, friends.
Bind him, I say.
Hard, hard, oh filthy traitor.
Unmerciful lady as you are, I'm none.
To this chair bind him. Villain, thou shalt find.
By the kind gods, 'tis most ignobly done to pluck me by the beard.
So white and such a traitor.
Naughty lady, these hairs which thou dost ravish from my chin will quicken and accuse thee. I am your host. With robber's hands my hospitable favors you should not ruffle thus. What will you do?
Come, sir, what letters had you late from France?
Be simple answered, for we know the truth.
Confederacy have you with the traitors, late footed in the kingdom?
To whose hands you have sent the lunatic king? Speak.
I have a letter guessingly set down, which came from one that's of a neutral heart, not from one opposed.
Cunning.
And false.
Where hast thou sent the king?
To Dover.
Wherefore to Dover? Was thou not charged at peril?
Wherefore to Dover? Let him answer that.
I am
tied to
tied.
the
Sorry.
I'm tied to the stake, and I must stand the course.
Wherefore to Dover?
Because I could not see thy cruel nails pluck out his poor eyes, nor thy fierce sister in his anointed flesh stick boorish fangs. The sea was such a storm as his bare head and hell-black night endured would have buoyed up and quenched the stelled fires. Yet, poor old heart, he helped the heavens to rain. If wolves had at their gate howled that stern time, thou shouldst have said, Good porter, turn the key, all cruels else subscribe. But I shall see the winged vengeance o'ertake such children.
See it shalt thou never. Fellows, hold the chair. Upon these eyes of mine I'll set my foot.
He that will think to live till he be old, give us some help, oh cruel, oh you gods!
One side will mock another, the other too.
If you see vengeance,
Servant one.
Okay. Uh, I have served you ever since I was a child. Oh, wait, hold your hand, my lord. I have served you ever since I was a child, but better service have I never done you than now to bid you hold.
How now, you dog?
If you did wear a beard upon your chin, I'll shake it on this quarrel. What do you mean?
my villain,
Nay, then come on and take the chance of anger.
Give me thy sword. A peasant stand up thus?
Uh, oh, I am slain. My lord, you have one eye left to see some mischief on him. Oh,
lest it see more, prevent it. Out, vile jelly. Where is thy lustre now?
uh,
Oh, dark and comfortless. Where's my son Edmund? Edmund! Enkindle all the sparks of nature to quit this horrid act.
Out, treacherous villain. Thou call'st on him that hates thee. It was he that made the overture of thy treason to us. Who is good, too good to pity thee?
Oh, my follies! Then Edgar was abused? Kind gods, forgive me that and prosper him.
Go, thrust him out at gates, and let him smell his way to Dover. How is my lord? How look you?
Received a hurt. Follow me, lady. Turn out that eyeless villain. Throw this slave upon the dunghill. Regan, I bleed apace. Untimely comes this hurt. Give me your arm.
I'll never care what wickedness I do, if this man come to good. If she live long, and in the end meet the old course of death, women will all turn monsters. Let's follow the old earl and get the bedlam to lead him where he would. His roguish madness allows itself to anything. Go thou, I'll fetch some flax and whites of eggs to apply to his bleeding face. Now, heaven help him.
ugh.
Wow.
You know, this is a horrible scene, but it actually ends on a slightly graceful note because you've got three servants who are risking everything to help this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't like to be going home to Reagan on a Friday night, having
Ooh, I don't
had
think so, buddy.
20 pints of Guinness and spent my money on the horse.
Yeah, I think that would not good for your health. Not good for your ocular health.
Correct.
Well, the servants actually speak well of Gloucester. Uh, we tend to look at Gloucester as, at this point, as a loyal but foolish fellow. Loyal to Lear, but a foolish fellow because he fell for Edmund's tricks. But the testimony of the three servants actually lends a lot of credence to the idea that Gloucester wasn't a bad fellow after all.
Right.
Yeah.
And Katrina wasn't actually Gloucester's servant even. She was Cornwall's servant. The first one was Cornwall's servant, and who says, like, I've served you loyalty. I'm going to do you a good turn now by preventing you from putting this guy's eye out.
Oh, and he's the one who drew his sword against Cornwall.
On his master to try to prevent him from doing this horrible thing.
That's pretty radical.
It is. I mean, it just speaks. There's this glimmer of hope about our ethical ability to do good when you're in the swamp.
Mm-hmm. Well, so much for any equivocation about Regan and
Yeah.
Donald. They are painted with the black paint at this point.
Yike.
Right. It's a good point because you thought, okay, how could it be worse than to turn your dad out into the storm? Or I guess he left of his own volition, but to bar the door to him, to an old man in the storm. How could it get any worse than that? And then it can in this scene.
Uh-huh.
But there's no stage direction about actually plucking out the eyes. Is it just purely in the text?
It's his comments, I guess.
Out vile jelly.
Yeah.
Pretty graphic.
Yeah. I've seen this play and I can't remember how they staged that. Does anybody else know?
It's a long, long time. I mean, I saw it 50 years ago.
I think they use grapes.
Hmm?
They use grapes in their hands and press against the eyes.
Hey.
And the juice flows out of the grapes.
Okay. So he doesn't kick the eyes out then on stage?
No.
Okay.
At least not in the recent production that I saw.
Okay.
Well, they talk about using his stepping on the eye, don't they?
Yeah.
On these eyes of thine I'll set my foot. But they've got him tied to a chair, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, Duncan. No, I mean, you're right. He says, upon these eyes of thine I'll set my foot.
Close your ears if you don't want to hear a gruesome thought. And the gruesome thought is after they pluck the eye out, maybe they stamp on the eye.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe that's it. Right.
I think that's what it means, yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. Wow. You guys have dark thoughts. I didn't go there.
Hey, blame it on Willie.
It's Cornwall who actually does it. Is it?
It must be.
Yeah, I think he's the one who says.
Yeah.
that.
The out-bile jelly.
Right. And it's the servant who's telling him, hold thy hand. Hold
Mm.
your hand, my lord. So he's got to be doing it.
Don't
Yeah,
forget
isn't
we
it
had
one-
this in Macbeth as well when he said out Jan's spot,
Yeah.
when he was talking about the dog.
Yeah, here's line 65, Cornwall.
Will mock the
See
other.
it shall thou
Yep.
never. Fellows, hold the chair. Upon those eyes of thine, I'll set my foot.
But Regan says, one side will mock the other too. She goes for his other eye.
Yeah, Reagan. Is,
Yeah, man.
Regan is not considering the future.
So for Gloucester, like this is such a well architected scene, right? So he gets his eyes put out, and then he finds out that the kid he trusted betrayed him,
Mm-hmm.
and that the kid he kind of forced to flee, he didn't trust, actually was loyal to him.
Yeah.
So he's got no eyes, betrayal, and then his own personal screw up. Like three things. Like three really bad things happened to him in a very short period of time.
Right.
Yeah, but when we were reading that, in that speech of his, is that when it suddenly dawns on him what's going on?
So here I think this would answer your question, Sylvia. Here's Gloucester, all dark and comfortless. So he's lost the eye. Problem number one.
Right.
Where's my son Edmund? Edmund, enkindle all the sparks of nature to quit this horrid act. And I think quit is requite. Requite. So to pay him back. And then Regan tells him, out, treacherous villain, thou callest on him that hates thee. It was he that made the overture of thy treason to us. Who is too good to pity thee? And then he says, Gloucester says, my God, I mean, this is really heart-wrenching. Oh, my follies, then Edgar was abused. Kind gods, forgive me that and prosper him.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry. I kind of, yes. I didn't quite get it when we were reading it, that Regan is the one who outlined who had made him. Right. No, yeah, that's neat. And then he suddenly sees.
He sees, now that he is blind, he sees.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then Reagan, I mean, these are amazing lines. Reagan really is doing herself dirt here. Go, thrust him out at gates and let him smell his way to Dover.
Well, they're very good at putting these the elders out. This is the second one.
Yeah.
Have already thrown out their father.
Yeah.
Oh, this is just pitiful. And then Gloucester is led out, but the servant lays down his life for him.
Yeah, and it's not even Gloucester's servant.
No, I just think it's so sad.
Yeah, Dave, about the 3 points you had there on Gloucester, there was a fourth.
Okay.
When Lear gave up his power, Gloucester's world would have fallen apart.
Right. That's true. Right.
What?
The only one standing behind Lear.
Yeah.
He would have been what's known as a legacy hire.
That is a very good way of putting it. That's right. A legacy hire. Well said, Orla.
No, it's only because these are all the terms they use in business. It's like when someone's there and a new boss comes in,
right,
they might want to change everybody over because they have legacy hires.
Well, that's interesting.
Well, and plus there's some practical advice here, folks. Please make a note of it in case you run across anybody whose eye has been freshly plucked out. You need flax and egg white to make a poultice. Actually, that I don't quite understand. If I was talking with Shakespeare, I would question him about his recipe here. Because I can guarantee you that flax and egg white mixed together are very strong extracting powers. I would probably use something like that for venomous spider bites. But anyway, that's what it says. Go thou, I'll fetch some flax and whites of eggs to apply to his bleeding face. Now heaven help him. And I guess I should point out the slight foreshadowing that Gloucester did when he told Regan. Regan says to Gloucester, "Wherefore to Dover, sir?" Gloucester, this is line 55. because I would not see thy cruel nails pluck out his poor old eyes.
Wow. That's good. So what's metaphorical becomes literal.
Mhm.
So I'm taking us back a couple pages, but it was a big time insult to pluck somebody's beard.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
So there's a progression here, right? He's bound. He's accused of being a traitor. I'm sorry, I think he's accused of being a traitor. He's bound, which somebody of his status would be entirely unused to. And then his beard is plucked. And I don't know if it was a greater insult because it was plucked by a woman or not, but I don't know how that worked for the Elizabethans or Jacobins. I can't remember who was the monarch when this play was written.
Well, I think that in addition to just being a general insult, that the plucking of the beard was also a physical threat.
Okay.
I'm taking because one of the techniques that would be used during the time of beards would be to grab the beard and lift it up while
Okay.
slitting the throat. So it's an alarming gesture.
And it's as the sole member of the group who's sporting. Oh no, Des, you got one too. I don't know about oh, you got a little one too there, done. Okay, so we're three bearded guys. There's a reason I keep mine short. I used to have it longer, and like when little kids, little babies would grab it and yank, it brought a few tears to the eyes. It was a little painful.
Mhm.
So
Well, facial hair isn't the only thing we have in common. All four names start with D.
the four Ds. There you are. That's good, Des.
And that's true. Every male present here is their
Right.
That's
name
an
starts with a
inspiration.
D.
Right. But only three of you have hair. I'm singular in that regard, I think. Okay, so anyway, back to this. Okay. With the traitors late footed in the kingdoms. Like they're hammering him with questions. This is very interesting. Like so he's ticked off, hey, like it's bad for him to pull my beard. He's going, come on, I'm your host and that. And then okay, so come, sir, what letters had you late from France? Be simple answered, for we know the truth. And what confederacy have you with the traitors late footed in the kingdom? To whose hands have you sent the lunatic king? Speak. So they're hammering him with questions here. Right.
but yeah,
I
but
just looked up the king, and the king was James the First of England.
It was.
And
So
what happened?
he'd come into power by this time. Yeah, I just couldn't remember when that transition was. Do you have a date on that? Like, was it 1601?
1603, but in 1605 was the gunpowder plot.
Okay, right.
And so it would have been full of conspiracies. This, according to this, everybody was going on about Catholic conspirators frustrated, and so it would have been very topical.
Right.
but also does anybody think that there's kind of it's played out like Christ's passion in some ways? Like Pontius Pilate or something.
But lost from the point of view of Cornwall, Goneril, and Regan, Gloucester did commit a treasonous act. Because he warned Lear and he sent Lear to join with the King of France and his daughter Cornelia in Dover.
Yes, but Lear would have felt that they had the unwritten, I don't know what you'd call it, the heads of agreement were that he was to be taken care of, and they didn't take care of him. So if that had been a contract, they would have failed the terms of the contract. So they wouldn't have been entitled to hold on to the land for that reason.
Okay, sorry, Orla. I missed the first part of what you said because I was reading ahead. Are you saying that the two daughters broke the contract with Lear?
Well, it wasn't a formal contract, but if he gave them his territory and they were to look after him and they didn't look after him, therefore he could demand everything back. And that was, I think that's what his loyal subjects are thinking.
Right. That's a good point. And actually, I have a brother who's a lawyer, and I think he once told me that verbal contracts do hold some weight in law.
Yeah, there's a very, very famous case in Texas involving, I think, Texaco and Pennzoil, which was a handshake contract. That's what they called those things.
Right.
And there was a handshake contract, and I believe that Texaco broke it. And Pennzoil took them to court and won.
Okay.
That even though there was no written contract, the courts recognized a verbal handshake contract.
Adding more weight to what you said, Orla.
But who's the judge? This is
But 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 with land, you have to have it in writing. I don't know if that was the law. In land, you have to have the contract in writing, otherwise it's not valid.
Here's the thing to think about, Sylvia. Like, just to go back to Orla's point, which I had not really thought about. Okay, so way back at the beginning of the play, in full court, there's an agreement being struck. Okay, so Cordelia's out, but I'm going to divide the kingdom in two. You get this, but in return, I get this. So this is done like in open court before a bunch of people. It's not like some backroom deal. And so when that gets broken, like I'm really glad you raised this issue, but I hadn't thought of it. So when it gets broken, does that give those whose loyalty to the two daughters is no longer unshakable, does it give them some ground to stand on because they've broken a deal?
I'm gonna come in and say that this is the problem as I see it, and I'm blaming Lear.
Right.
Because any legal system has to have a judge and an enforcement mechanism. If it does not have a judge, a hired judge, which is respected, and if it does not have an enforcement system, then it is no longer a legal system. It is a pure money and power system.
Right.
And I think that what Lear did when he suddenly pops up, gives land and power to the two daughters, disowns the other daughter, he destroyed his legal system. He destroyed the only legal system that existed.
In what way, Duncan?
Well, who's going to be the judge and who's going to be the enforcer? In that way. The whole idea of a legal system, going back to the Greeks, is that you have someone who can judge and you have someone who can enforce the law. And there's a general agreement to obey the laws. But Lear causes chaos by giving, suddenly giving things to the two daughters, disowning the other daughter, and all agreements at that particular point come down to who has the power to do what.
But wouldn't that be the case anyway in a monarchy? Like not a constitutional monarchy like we have in the British system, including Canada. But wouldn't that be in a regular monarchy? Wouldn't that be the system that you are to a certain extent at the mercy of the whim of the monarch?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the monarch is the judge and the monarch is the enforcer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But
because he has the power.
Right.
yeah, but these two women, Goneril and Regan, behave as if they have the power and they're the enforcers because he passed that on to them.
Yeah, he passed part of what he had on to them. And they are responding. So here's my image. If you have a strong monarch, which for all intents and purposes, we think that Lear was a strong monarch. He did control the kingdom, and he felt like he had the power to give parts of the kingdom away. So he could be the judge and he could be the enforcer. When you break up a kingdom, suddenly it's no longer a kingdom, it's cartels. You got the Goneril group, you got the Regan group, and you got the Cornelia group, and then you got Lear somewhere in between. So, Orlo's point was a very good one about the contracts being broken, but the problem is there's no judge that has the power.
There's the power, and I guess that's we're getting an indication that there's another power arriving on the scene, and that's why everybody's so jittery here, right? Because
right. The king
there's
of
a landing
France,
in Dover from France.
The king of France supporting Cornelia is landing in Dover, and there, I would assume that their plan is to support Lear.
Right.
Okay. And maybe the king of France and the forces of Lear would be big enough to establish a new central power
Right.
that can enforce its edicts.
Right. And are we also seeing, because you talked about power, are we also seeing people starting to fall away? Well, we are at a higher level. We're seeing people fall away from Regan and Goneril. I mean, Gloucester has.
Gloucester fell away.
But we're seeing it at a lower level when we look at the actions of those three servants.
That's true.
Which we saw in Macbeth when we took Macbeth. If you'll notice, people were falling away from Macbeth.
Exactly. Yes, this is what I'm saying. When there is not a clear central authority. Now, you may not like dictatorial monarchs, but a dictatorial monarch has a possibility of being a strong enough power to actually make judgments that they can then enforce.
Right.
But when you have different gangs, if you will, we got the Cornelia gang, Cordelia gang, we got the Reagan gang, we got the Goneril gang, and then we got the Lear, not quite a gang. Lear is still carrying some of the aura of authority because he was the old king. And so he has commanded the loyalty of Kent, and he has commanded the loyalty of Gloucester, and he will command the loyalty of, I think, Edgar.
Right.
Okay. So we're in a time of, this is a time of chaos. At least that's how I'm analyzing it. And in times of chaos, there is no legal system.
Right.
Ultimately, legal systems depend upon two things. They depend upon belief,
Right.
and they depend upon sufficient power to enforce
Right.
the laws.
Okay, so let me piggyback on that, back to Orla's point, and that is that's where the power is getting chipped away from them, isn't it? Like if people are looking at this and going, you're not sticking to the contract, nobody says it in those terms, but you're treating this guy badly. That's how it kind of comes out, which is partially because they're not sticking to the contract. Then it's going to erode your power, Reagan and Goneril, because you're not sticking to this, you're mistreating him, and we're not going to be as loyal to you as we were, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
So it's very interesting. Orla, just to kind of amplify your point, I was to see a performance of Richard II about 3 weeks ago. And it's about the fall of a king. If you don't know the story, it's about the fall of a king. Richard II starts as a king, and he ends up getting toppled from his throne. And one of the main reasons he's not very good at his job. But the thing that really kind of the tripwire is that there's a guy called Bolingbroke, his dad Lancaster Bolingbroke, and the old Lancaster dies. Bolingbroke, his son, has been exiled, and Richard seizes all of the lands that the younger Bolingbroke, though in exile, is supposed to inherit. And somebody says to Richard II, and this is totally to your point, Duncan, somebody says to Richard II, if you seize this guy's inheritance, you're on shaky ground yourself because you got the job because you inherited it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of Orla the same as Regan and Goneril breaking the contract. Richard II broke the contract, so Bolingbroke gets pissed off and he comes back. Not only does he seize his lands, but he bumps Richard II off the throne. But it was started by Richard II breaking the contract and seizing this guy's lands that Richard II shouldn't have taken.
Okay. Well, let me bring it to the moment.
Right.
We have in the United States, the contract is being broken.
Mm-hmm.
The government was supposed to enforce certain rights and legal obligations. And the actions of ICE and other entities are outside of the usual thing. And you got two basic parties watching this. There's the one party that views the forces of darkness as all powerful and that there's not much that can be done about them other than complain because the legal system is not being applied as it should be. Okay. The other party, which I belong to, is the party that says to the ICE agents, okay, boys, have your fun, but please be aware, you will be prosecuted. If you break people's rights, And if you abuse people, there will come a time when you will be prosecuted, and you will, no matter how much mask you have, the identification between the records that are being kept and between the photos and the videos, most of you guys will be discovered.
Great.
Okay, so I'm using the legal argument. I'm saying we will have a legal system again.
Right.
And we will have an enforcement system that takes account of people's rights, and that you just can't run around being a thug. Now, I'm kind of in Orla's position in the sense that right now none of that stuff exists. Right now we do not have our typical legal system, and we do not have enforcers for the standard American legal system. We just don't have them. It is a time of chaos. It is a time of gangsters. But but my argument is, well, this is a temporary period of time that will pass, and the American legal system will come back, as they say, with a vengeance. So anyway.
Yeah, but that period of time that at the moment, that it's also a period of change. And for every 2 or 3 years of change, it will take 20 to 30 years to restructure the system. I mean, Trump is not going to go away in 4 years or anything near it. He's a linchpin for the what was the Project 2025?
Yes. He's the advance guard, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
It'll take a long time to restructure this, a long time.
I would say that I'm more optimistic, but I'm knowingly optimistic
Yeah.
because we do have case law and systems to fall back on.
Yes, but what Trump is doing, or what the project is doing, is restructuring the legal system. He is appointing judges for life. And by the time he retires, there will be hundreds of Trump MAGA judges. You can see it in your Supreme Court immediately.
Yes.
Yeah. That's right.
You know, the mentality of the judge is changing by force. I can't see the American system restructuring itself anytime soon.
I think internationally you're absolutely right. I think internationally,
There's lost all pretense of righteousness throughout the world.
well, I think even more than the pretense of righteousness, the predictability has gone, and that I see countries realigning themselves. The way that I put it is, this is the children on the playground with a big bully. And the smaller children will always give lip service to the bully, while at the same time reorganizing themselves to become less dependent upon the bully. And I think that part is going to be very hard. I don't think the United States will ever get back to where it was. That part is going to be, the American reputation and the American position in the world is destroyed. Probably
Yeah,
never to come back. Not 20 or 25 years, just probably never to come back. We will never have the type of power and prestige that we have had. Even though, that past power and prestige was built upon a lot of bullshit and a lot of conniving. Um, it did have the virtue of being pretty dependable, and that's gone.
to
Within the
push your
United States, I'm a little more within the United States, I'm a little bit more optimistic than you are.
just to push your analogy a little bit of
Sure.
the schoolyard bully. If the bully is the school management, it's a whole different dimension of a problem.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to which I would respond, it is the temporary school management.
Yes, but the people who are being bullied have that experience and they can't not have it. It restructures the society no matter what you do. It has happened. It is a period of change.
I hear I hear clearly what you're saying, Des, and I think that your viewpoint is a very strong viewpoint. I am perhaps more optimistic because of my experience from the 1960s, interestingly enough, since that was a topic of discussion before the meeting today. And the fact of the matter is, although we, meaning the youth at the time, did not succeed in restructuring the society to the degree which we aspired to, we had a very strong influence.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, unwittingly taught the opposition how to use the tools that we had developed for what I consider bad things. But the major point being that ultimately a government depends upon the will of the people. A very amorphous concept, to be sure. To make it less amorphous, I would say the government depends upon the cooperation of its citizens. And when the citizenry decides it no longer wants or needs to cooperate with the government, it takes time, but eventually it can bring the government to a standstill, or at least a slowdown. So,
but in relation to Lear,
yes.
we're not comparing like with like here, because the monarch has the absolute power and their judge and enforcer, as you just said. But sure,
Mhm.
by the same token, these two women who've taken over, I mean, they see themselves as legitimate, and that's
Right.
why they can do these terrible deeds, like throw out their father, like mutilate dear old Gloucester, and
Mhm.
and they actually have a contingent behind them. of
Yes,
some.
they had. That's why I say these are like cartels. These are like gangs. The monarchy was shattered by Lear and by the behavior of Lear's children. It's just shattered. And it's shattered into gangs or cartels, if you will. And the cartel, you're absolutely right. What Reagan and Cornwell did was they tried, sentenced, and carried out the sentence on Cornwall. I mean, on Gloucester. They were acting like minor kingdoms, but the fact of the matter is they're not kingdoms. And this is, as a matter of fact, the reason why they did all this is because they did not want Lear to join with Cornelia and the King of France.
But from their point of view,
Mhm.
I mean, they're legitimate and they can actually, treat a traitor. Who said somebody in the group said that Gloucester committed treason.
He did, yeah. From their point of view, he committed treason.
And he got off lightly. He didn't get killed. He only got his eyes plucked out.
Someone might argue that getting your eyes gouged out is sufficient.
I'm just saying.
Actually, Cornwall was all for killing him, but he said it was beyond his power. I mean, I can find this.
Yeah, somewhere.
No, he does say that. I might be able to dig it up. Okay.
Yeah.
Revenges we are bound to take our. Okay, hold on. Advise the Duke we are bound. Okay, I post to the. Okay, convey this virus. Okay. Though we may not pass upon his life, we may not pass upon his life without the form of justice. Yet our power shall do a curtsy to our wrath, which men may blame but not control. So I'm reading that as he's feeling a bit constrained in what he can do. So he, in quotation marks, limits himself to blinding Gloucester.
And then throwing him outdoors.
Yeah, so that he can smell his way to Dover.
I
Yeah,
know. That is just
I know. Yeah,
shock.
that's hard. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, yeah, everybody, to speak to so everybody in the book feels that righteousness is on their side.
hmm.
Certainly Cordelia does, which is why she's invading the country with the King of France. Certainly Reagan thinks that she is doing well, despite her ugly remarks, etc. And the same with Goneril. And of course, Kent, the forces of Kent, Gloucester, and Lear, they think they're in the right. And Edmund thinks he's in the right. So all of these actors, all of these groups have a claim to righteousness.
So the word traitor is kind of a loaded word here, and I would put this to the two Americans as part of our group. Was George Washington a traitor? And if not, was Benedict Arnold a traitor?
Those definitions depends upon who wins.
That's right. That's the whole thing. And that was when we were, okay, so Donna, when you and I were much younger, remember? One man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist, right?
That's for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there it is.
Even in more recent times, that would apply to Nelson Mandela.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, Nelson Mandela. Exactly.
Mandela himself was asked, is there any way in which terrorism can be justified? And his initial answer was yes. And he went on to explain it a little. eventually his handlers manhandled him away from the microphones and back into the.
Wow.
And I've never heard the recording of it. I just watched it live.
Right?
Mhm.
Oh, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Mhm. Right. Well, this leads us right back to my point earlier that to use legal terms, you have to have a legal system.
Hmm.
To have a legal system, you have to have a judge, a recognized judge who can apply the law. And in addition to having the judge, you have to have an enforcement mechanism. And the American Revolution, this is going to be really weird, to compare it to Lear, the situation of Lear, the American Revolution is when forces within America, and not by any means the majority of the forces within America, declared that the King of England was no longer their judge and was no longer the one who could enforce the laws. And that sent the legal system in the American colonies into chaos. And that was only solved when not only was the revolution kind of won, but that a legal system was established, judges were appointed, and law officers were appointed.
There is an adage which says that a people or a country will get the government they deserve.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And I mean, you can apply that to the United States today, or you can apply it to King Lear and his people.
Mm-hmm.
As the king, he was no longer in a position to wield that kind of power. He was losing his marbles.
Mm.
The way they went about changing it gave them something far worse.
Yes, of course, he didn't think that. This is where, if you get a chance to watch the Kurosawa movie Ram, which is based loosely on King Lear, the point is gotten across uh, very clearly that by the king or the warlord in the case of Ram giving away his power, that he created the chaos, which
Mm.
he is then going to suffer from.
Mm.
And that
I just want to
the whole real value of a government is that it provides stability and predictability.
Right.
in history, we're talking here about blinding. The death penalty would have been the norm for centuries, but around the Middle Ages, blinding began to come back into fashion, and it was blinding usually with mutilation, whether that was chopping off the hands or castration or some such. But things began to change when the church preferred the blinding system to a death penalty because it gave them a chance for repentance. And this restructured society throughout Europe for ever since, really.
Okay, so that's the stated reason, and that may have been the sincere reason. But from a pure power point of view, It's better to blind people and have them wandering around.
Right. As an example, right?
As an example, right?
Pour
If
inclusion
they
is
kill
ultra.
people, they're gone. They're not I mean, they are an abstract example. But to have blind people, or I mean, Saudi Arabia does this. In Saudi Arabia, they cut people's arms and legs off. And it's a deliberate policy. They think that that kind of terrorism is going to cause people to. I'm not saying that that's the way things should be. I'm just saying there is that school of thought. But
as far as political opponents are concerned, it's far better to have them alive and incapacitated than as a dead martyr.
Yes.
yes,
Provided they have no successors.
but we're fortunate to the degree that a power hungry person will almost always martyr people.
Well, I read in the paper today, a few papers, that Saudi Arabia executed a man today because or recently, because he had been in a protest when he was 15.
There we go.
And how long ago was that, Orla?
I think the person must now be a well-grown was an adult.
Okay.
It was just, one of those tiny little,
Sure.
probably, if you look at the New York Times or the Washington Post, it's one of those little, just on the front page.
Sure.
Okay. And we have the amazing sight that a man is being going to be tried as a felon for throwing a sandwich at an ICE agent. Anyway.
As just before we go, there's a little loose end, a thread that left hanging, and I would just say, I agree with you that people get the government they deserve in a democracy. I'm not sure you can say the same if people are living in a dictatorship where they can't regularly vote for their leaders.
True.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yes, certainly. And I certainly wouldn't contradict you in any way, but it has seemed to me for quite some time now that the glorification of democracy as the epitome of governance is false.
Yep.
It doesn't work
It doesn't
when you
work.
look at the division between wealth and poverty
Yeah.
any more than feudalism did.
True.
It's a Churchill said that, didn't he? He said it's the worst form of government,
Except for all the others.
except for all the others. That's right,
Which is pretty much where I stand.
Because it's far from perfect. And yes, I agree, Des, that in all democracies there is a huge discrepancy of wealth, and I think that can be potentially destabilizing.
Well, yes, in the case of the United States, that's excruciatingly true. But I would point out that we have a large form, many types of governments in South America, and we have the same phenomena.
Yeah.
So democracy in itself is not the only way that we get that. Anyway, I hope everyone has enjoyed this overtly political discussion as I have, and I think it is strongly related to what's going on in Lear.
Yes.
And in Lear, I would continue to argue that what we have here is we have a functioning government. We, of course, do not know how well Lear's government functioned when he was clearly the king. but he divided it up, and now we have a, if you will, a civil war beginning, where there are large gangs, and the gangs are basically the different sisters.
Right. I'm not here next week, but let me just say that based on the fears of the cartels, the two cartels, Lear joining the people in Dover. If Lear had been a horrible king, they wouldn't have cared, because nobody would flock to his standard in Dover if he'd been a write-off as a king. So he must have been a good enough king that they don't want him to get to Dover, because they know that if he joins their cause there, it's going to help that cause.
Right, and we do have the example of Gloucester being loyal, and
Yeah.
Gloucester we have considered up to now as a kind of foolish but okay guy. And we have Kent, who, at least in my mind, is an upstanding sort of fellow.
Right.
So there are witnesses standing up, and we have the servant. The servant stood up to Cornwall. So
Right. Right.
all righty.
And hold on. And Albany too. Albany tells Goneril, "You're being too hard on him. You want to take a deep breath here, dear." So
Yeah,
even there, so we've got some moral heavy hitters who are on Lear's camp.
Well, we shall see. We have, how far do we have to go? I guess we're about
Two
2/3
acts.
of the way
Act
through.
4.
We have 2 acts to go. Yeah.
2 acts to go. Stay tuned.
All right.
Come back and participate.
Good. And I'll see everybody in 2 weeks. Thank
Okay,
you.
very good.
Thank you.
Okay.